we spent the last 5 months living and travelling around Mexico.
Here's our top 10 things we wish we knew before travelling around Mexico in 2024.
Hi, we're Rob and Tarly, Loved Up Lifestylers. We left our 9 to 5 lives in May 2023 to travel the world full time.
So, number 10, cash or credit card. So we've really found it's important to carry cash around. It's been so many times where we've finished a meal and the restaurant have said, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's only cash," so it's put us in a bit of a bind. And the same can be said for like many of the small shops, taxis, and the street food vendors as well. And we were also really surprised that even with cash, we went to pay with a 200 peso note and they're saying, "Oh no, that's too large." So carry smaller notes around with you as well. Obviously there are many places that accept credit cards, but you will find that most of them add at least a 5% commission fee on top of the cost.
Number 9, Mexico is not as cheap as we thought. So Mexico has a reputation of being really cheap, and some parts are. However, the touristy areas are not, like Playa del Carmen, Isla Mujeres, Cozumel, which is where we travel quite a bit. And as full-time travellers, how much it costs matters quite a bit to us. We also found that accommodation changes quite a lot with the season. So from November to January, the price could increase by about 50%.
Okay, number 8. Getting scammed. So of course you can get scammed anywhere in the world, but we were really surprised at just how prolific scams and scammers were in Mexico. The worst we experienced was when we were driving and people trying to flag us off the road and goodness knows what. And then, arriving at some of the attractions we were visiting, people flagging us into their own private car parks where they charge you more money to park, try and sell you tickets for a higher price. We also had one waiter that decided he wanted to add his own tip, but not only that, sign the credit card authorization without telling us. We've also heard from friends about fake ticket sellers in Playa del Carmen, particularly on 5th Avenue, and also an area of quite common scams is through rental cars, where people have been charged for returning their car and there's no spare wheel in there, and there was never a spare wheel, but they're getting charged for these things. So really got to be careful with that. We take our time to video and photo everything, the inside and outside of a car when we rent one.
Number 7, we found lots of hidden gems. There are many beautiful hidden gems around Mexico. We travelled around the Yucatan Peninsula and Quintana Roo and found lots of really lovely places that are lesser known than all the popular spots, which were just gorgeous. Like Valladolid, we found much nicer than the popular Merida. Bacalar, really gorgeous. Not a lot of people talk about that. And particularly the cenotes. There are lots of very popular ones, but there are so many to see. And thanks to locals and some research, we found some gorgeous lesser known ones. So I'd really recommend researching those.
Okay, number 6, the ADO buses. So the ADO buses are a great way to get around Mexico, whether that's between towns or from the airports to where you're going to stay. We've used them 6 or 7 times and found that they are cheap, reliable, comfortable way of travelling. Even though it says it's a bus, it's more like a luxury coach. However, they do say that they have Wi-Fi on the bus. I think it only worked one time for us, so just be aware of that. I was actually just replying to one of our viewers who were asking, I've heard the taxis are really expensive, how do I get from the new Tulum airport to his hotel in Tulum? And yeah, certainly a recommendation there is to use the ADO at a fraction of the price. We also used an online website called ClickBus. We'll put the details in the description below, but we found that to be really useful. It allowed us to book our tickets ahead of time. The queues at the ADO stations can be quite long. I've stood in one for about 40 minutes, and getting your tickets ahead of time is definitely recommended. It also means that you have an electronic version of your ticket, and some of the routes are actually discounted.
Number 5, finding local activities and things to do. So before we went to Mexico, I joined quite a few Facebook groups, lots of expat groups in particular, and through those found lots of activities to do, regular things we could do, but also then you find WhatsApp groups specific to what you really like. So for us, I found lots of bachata and salsa dance classes and social nights, found quiz nights that we went to regularly, meetups, lots of social events, lots of fun stuff. It's a great way through Facebook groups, which will then get you onto WhatsApp groups.
Yeah, it's great. Number 4, taxis and local transport. So we've experienced our fair share of taxis trying to rip us off.
Around the world.
Around the world, yes. Turkey comes to mind, but yeah, a lot of the time in Mexico. So just some helpful tips. Make sure that you agree a price with a taxi driver before you get in, and certainly before you leave. The taxi drivers in Mexico don't use meters. So you really need to kind of agree that price up front. It's good to either do a bit of research on Google, or perhaps ask somebody at the hotel how much you should be paying. And remember that you can barter, so the price that they give you is probably more than what you should be paying to begin with. So around Mexico you'll find lots of different varieties of local transport. For us, we use the colectivos a lot in Playa del Carmen, and they are a super cheap way of just getting around the town. Now, not many other kind of tourists use them. It's like very kind of dominated just by locals. I mean, they're not super comfortable, like there's no aircon, so it can get a bit kind of sweaty and crowded, but for short distances we found that fine and super useful. So I guess what we're saying is don't overlook the local transport. If you're this far through the video, then hopefully you're getting some good value out of it.
So don't forget to subscribe for more videos and hit the bell so that you get notified of when our next video comes out. Alright, number 3, not all beaches are free, which is a difficult thing coming from a country where all the beaches are free.
Yeah.
Some are, but lots require access via a beach club, and a lot of the beach clubs will have a minimum spend or a set amount that you have to pay, and then you can lie on the beach on their lounges, go snorkeling from their shore, which is a little disappointing, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah, we found tend to try and look for the cheaper beach clubs, and we have used a few of them.
Yeah, we found quite a few that don't look as glamorous, but they're just as beautiful.
Yeah.
The sand's lovely, the water's gorgeous, the snorkeling was still really pretty.
Yeah, it was a surprise though that we can't access the beach for free.
Well, you don't have to go to a glamorous beach club either.
Yeah. Number 2, cheap car rental. So we used discovercars.com, and that's kind of I guess an aggregate booking site, and so we jump on there to make our reservation. It gives you a whole bunch of different providers, so we only picked a company such as Europcar that we were familiar with.
And had good reviews.
Yeah. And so we made the booking through discovercars.com. You don't have to pay anything at that time, but we had way more than 50% discount on our car rental.
Yeah.
It was huge. And we always opted to take out the additional insurance as well, and we did that through discovercars.com. And one thing that's quite typical in Mexico is the excess for the car is 20% of the value of the car. So, like, depending upon how luxurious a model that you're actually taking, that could add up to be quite a lot of money. Okay, the number one thing, and I think this is the number one for many people, is safety. And I absolutely must admit that before going to Mexico, I had concerns about safety. There was a lot of news articles about issues, and issues, relating to tourists being kidnapped and being killed, particularly around the time that we went. And I was genuinely concerned. A lot of our family members were
Worried.
Either saying don't go, or instead of having have a great time, it was, you be really careful. But the reality for us when we were there, and we spent quite a lot of time in Playa del Carmen, but we also traveled extensively around the Yucatan Peninsula and Quintana Roo, and I never felt uncomfortable at all or threatened.
I felt quite protected.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a huge police presence, absolutely massive. Almost
Even
every
on the beach.
Yes, yeah. So there are armed police everywhere, and they are there to protect tourists. Look, it didn't feel uncomfortable. Maybe the only place a little bit was downtown in Tulum. The vibe was a little bit different there. I think there were more just groups of people, groups of guys hanging around. We didn't experience any issue, but I was probably a little bit more on guard at that point. So I guess we just wanted to kind of share our experience there. I mean, we walked around at night time.
Yep. Lots of towns. Never felt unsafe.
No, like all of the locals were just very, very friendly, getting on with their own lives, and it was just kind of great to kind of mix in with everybody. But like everywhere in the world, you do have to just be aware of your surroundings, and there's always going to be a few dodgy people to make sure you stay clear of. We had a great time in Mexico. We hope you have a great time too. It's a fantastic place to visit. I'm sure we'll be going back.